was one of the punishments inflicted upon Israel because of their idolatry? This is the question that we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Exodus on Walking Through the Bible.
The glory of his cross.
If you have a Bible with you, you can turn to Exodus 32. We're going to be reading from verses 25 to 29. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Exodus 32, beginning at verse 25. Now when Moses saw that the people were unrestrained, for Aaron had not restrained them to their shame among their enemies, then Moses stood in the entrance of the camp and said, Whoever is on the Lord's side, come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together to him. And he said to them, Thus says the Lord God of Israel, Let every man put his sword on his side and go in and out from the entrance to entrance throughout the camp. And let every man kill his brother, every man his companion, and every man his neighbor. So the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and about 3,000 men of the people fell that day. Then Moses said, Consecrate yourselves today to the Lord, that he may bestow on you a blessing this day, for every man has opposed his son and his brother. In this chapter we have Israel at Mount Sinai worshiping the golden calf. This in spite of instructions in chapter 20 that they were not to worship idols, and they weren't even to worship the true God of heaven with images. The reason they built the idol was because Moses spent so much time on Mount Sinai that they didn't know what had become of him. While this reason might have been true, it was no excuse for disobeying God. They could have inquired of Aaron, who could have told them to be patient, for Moses would descend from Mount Sinai when he was done communing with the Lord. Seeing as how Moses went up Mount Sinai by the word of the Lord, it would thus be expected that an all-powerful God like Jehovah would be able to protect him and then send him back to tell Israel what God had said. But no, the children of Israel became impatient and built the idol. The worship of this idol was not only wrong, but it also included lascivious dancing, something else that was sinful. When Moses came down the mountain, he saw what Israel had done and became angry. He was so angry that he broke the tablets of stone that the Lord had written on. He asked Aaron what happened, and instead of accepting responsibility, Aaron blamed the people and indirectly blamed God when he said that the idol simply appeared from the fire. Moses knew that the idol was an abomination to God, and so he didn't need to ask God what to do. He ground the idol up into powder, placed the powder in Israel's drinking water, and forced them to drink it. Doing this was Moses' way of showing Israel how serious it was to disobey God and worship idols, and by putting the gold in their drinking water should have caused them to not even be tempted by idolatry any further. The punishment worked for this generation, for we don't read of them serving idols again. However, the generation that would come after them, the one that would enter the promised land, did not remember this incident, and as we will find, did go off into idolatry soon after entering Canaan. Coming now to verse 25, we find one of the punishments for Israel's sin. When Moses looked out at the people, he saw that Aaron had allowed them to be unrestrained. What does this mean? It means that in their dress and in their conduct, he allowed them to be immoral. He would have allowed them to wear less clothing than God wanted, thus exposing their nakedness. He would have allowed them to behave in a sexually immoral way, not only in the dancing for this idol, but very likely allowing them to commit adultery and fornication, as such is closely associated with idolatry. Moses was going to have none of that, so he called out to Israel that whoever was on the Lord's side was to come to him. Did the tribe of Judah rise up? No. Did the tribe of Reuben rise up? No. Did the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh, sons of Joseph, rise up? No. Only the tribe of Levi rose up and came to Moses. When the tribe of Levi came to Moses, he told them to take their swords at their sides and go throughout the camp. Let every man kill his brother, his companion, and his neighbor. What Moses was telling them to do here has caused great difficulty for those who read the Bible, for they are confused as to what Moses was saying. Now, I don't pretend to have all the answers, but what this passage seems to be saying is that the Levites were to go throughout the camp and kill certain people from the other tribes. They weren't going to kill everybody, for that's what Moses successfully prevented God from doing earlier on in this chapter. What then appears to have taken place is that the Levites killed the people who led the children of Israel off into sin, the ringleaders, we might say. Jesus said in Matthew 18, verse 6, that it would be better for a man to have a millstone hung around his neck and be cast into the sea than to cause someone to stumble into sin. All those who worshipped the idol sinned, but someone had put the idea in their heads. And since it was only the Levites, including Aaron, who came to Moses to stand with the Lord, then that meant that the ringleaders had not repented, and thus deserved death. Of those who came out of Egypt, only a small fraction, about 3,000 men, died that day. But that should have been enough to show Israel the seriousness of their sin. What Moses was asking of the Levites was a test of their faith, to see if they were truly on the Lord's side. For it is easy to kill one's enemy. It is much harder to kill ones that you love. The Levites were not murdering here. They were handing down justice for the sins of the people and consecrating themselves before God. With that, our time is up for today. Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Exodus chapter 32, verses 30 to 35, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.